Trooper Thomas Gossen, in his capacity as the spokesperson for Troop I, which is basically the Acadiana region for Louisiana State Police, he joins us in studio. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So one of the interesting things, there are just news stories, and this one really, really bothered me. It made me so sad, and I know it did for all of us, because there was a situation where a young person died. Mm-hmm. And so basically, it sounds like this young person and 4 other people had stolen a vehicle. Mm-hmm. And then there was a chase that happened, but the roads were slick, and this young man went off of the roadway, hit a telephone pole. Mm-hmm. Now, the addition to our story should also add that the trooper who was in pursuit, actually a mile before that. Is that right?
About a minute or so.
Excuse me. I had the wrong terminology. About a minute or so prior to it, he said, I'm out. I'm done with the chase.
Yeah,
he
radioed that
bad.
He was terminating the pursuit just because
of the weather.
The weather. Yeah, and so he backed out.
Yeah.
And so they called off the pursuit. But just moments later, he saw a flash down the road, which I think was the transformer from the pole.
From the pole kind of blowing up.
Correct. And so he went to investigate that, and that's when he found the vehicle, which had overturned. Again, there were several still inside the vehicle, one outside the vehicle, and the driver had fled. So they're in the process of tracking him down. Mm-hmm. They know who he is, so it's just a matter of locating him. And again, all juveniles. We do normally.
It's heartbreaking to me on so many levels, because their lives are bad if they're stealing a vehicle. Then they get into this wreck. One young man's life is absolutely over, and it's a bad path for the others. And so, it's just a rough situation. So what are other details we should know, sir?
It is. Again, the vehicle was stopped. He attempted to stop the vehicle for speed, and I think it was clocked at 95 and a 55.
Oh,
wow. And at the time, obviously it had been raining earlier as well.
How far did they get before they got clocked?
Meaning,
where were they when the trooper clocked them at 95?
They were in St. Landry.
Okay, so they had made it all the way from Abbeville to St. Landry.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So that's what caught his eye. When that occurred. So that's when he attempted to stop them. But then when the rain began, he called it off and backed out. Mm-hmm. Shut down the pursuit whenever the moments later. That's when the crash occurred. So at the time, you don't know who's in the vehicle. You don't know. He didn't even know it was stolen at the time. He just knew that they were excessive
speeding. I mean, that's dangerous.
Right, absolutely. At that time,
and on a 2-lane road, no less.
Yeah. And this all occurred at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So it's a tragic situation all the way around.
It is.
Again, know where your kids are.
Yeah. And we are, here we are. It's May 11th, and by the end of this month, the majority of schools are going to be out.
Right. So we're on, that's fatality number 29 for the year.
Already.
Yeah. We had, I think, 27 at the end of last month, whereas last year at the same time we were at 18. Mm-hmm. Which sounds like, well, of course that's much lower, but actually the year before that was even lower than that. So we're on a steady climb each year. This year is a way up from statewide overall.
Mm-hmm.
So
how much does distracted driving do you think? And with the phone being number one, how much does distracted driving?
I think that is a huge huge factor when it comes, especially when it comes to rear-end crashes on I-10. I mean, we've all been on I-10, or just in general, everywhere. Just being distracted by that phone in the vehicle is a huge distraction. Commercial vehicles can't drive. Those guys must have, by law, have hands-free devices. They're not allowed to have that phone in their hand commercially already. So, and I don't want to get into the law as far as for legislation. We try to stay away from that stuff. But if we're talking about distractions, do we know that distractions are caused by this phone? Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
A couple of years ago, State Farm did a survey to find out who was doing the distracted driving, and it's a lot of us that are in my age range. The biggest problem they found at that point, and then right after was much younger people.
Sure.
But it's the folks that are middle aged. We're the worst offenders based on that survey, and look, I see it every day.
I think it's across the board. I don't think there's a one group that does it more than maybe they're
Who
wrong.
knows?
But I mean, I think we're all guilty.
Yeah,
of it,
we
period,
are.
no matter what.
Absolutely.
We're all guilty.
Every
of it.
time that phone rings or dings, I think about it. I'm like, Bernie, don't do it.
You know, and it's hard because I think it triggers something in the mind, almost
does.
like it's an
kid?
impulse. It's a drug. It's
Work?
it's an addiction to see what's going on that phone, and they'll say that if you see studies about kids and phones, they say, look, children shouldn't have these devices until they're at least 14, just because of the development.
Yeah,
because of that development of the brain and things like that, how it causes that need, that desire, that want, that addiction, and it is an addiction. So, you know, is it a distraction? By far, certainly is. You know, when we investigate a crash, we ask, you know, what were you distracted by something? Why did, Ian, why did you run into the back of Bernie's car? Well, it's a kind of a self-reporting thing. You know, we're going to factually see what happened. Yes, you hit her car. The reasons why, that's sometimes it's evident, sometimes it's not, and sometimes that's self-reporting that needs to happen. Yeah, I was looking at my maps, I was looking at my phone, I was answering a phone call, whatever you want to say, but that's a self-reporting thing. So that's the hard part about the stats when it comes to
that you're
exactly
absolutely right.
How much that causes.
And the bigger issue, not only with distracted driving, when you combine that with people who, quite frankly, don't know the rules of the road and don't know what they're supposed to be doing,
or lack of experience. Period.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
But what makes me wonder is you have people here, and I will go back to this roundabout point until I beat the horse dead. I'm at a roundabout yesterday at Ridge at Rue de Bellier. By this point, we've had roundabouts in this area for going on 10 years now. It is amazing that people still don't understand that yield doesn't mean stop.
Okay,
Correct.
but I got to tell you, part of it, I'm going to tell you from the people, I have someone in my family, super close family, scares her to death. Even to this day, knows exactly what she's supposed to do, freaks out every time.
But that's not having spatial awareness. That's not being comfortable in a car, you know?
Yeah.
So it just in general, she probably has a hard time parallel parking too. You
She
know what
does.
I mean? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
Because she doesn't
It's a
understand the spatial issues and movements and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's common. But look, while we're talking about the car and things going on, that is a huge issue. I mean, I get it. I see the same thing.
But in a larger generality, though, you have people on the road who don't know basic rules of the road. If you're not passing, be on the right lane. Don't pass on the shoulder. I actually saw that on I-10 this week. Somebody doing 90 passing on the right-hand shoulder.
What the hell's wrong with
It's
people?
basic rules of the road and basic courtesy on the road that we're lacking.
You know, we can pass all the laws in the world, but if people don't follow them, you know, that's where we are with this. You know, I have a list of things that that I really kind of wanted to touch on today.
Let's do it.
Because, but it goes back to everything you're saying. I mean, right, just as simple as this, as you know, it's raining. It's been raining for 2 days now.
Right.
Driving with those flashers on. You know, it's not legal to do. Why? And everybody's like, why? It makes me more visible. Yeah, it does make you more visible, but it makes it harder to see your turn signals. It makes it harder to see your brake lights. It also is intended for a disabled vehicle to be parked on the side of the roadway. So you get somebody who's coming up behind you, visibility is really poor. They might think you are parked on the side of the roadway, not in the roadway.
lane.
Or they might think that, what if your vehicle breaks down and it does stall, bam,
Right
it
there.
dies out right there. So you put your hazard lights on, you know, they think you're still moving. You know, so there's a
the
lot of
depth
issues with
perception
running
can
with
be very
those
difficult, especially in
with those
inclement
lights
weather.
on, right? So
Wow.
so we want to remind people that if you leave your lights on, just your lights on, not your flashers. Flashers are intended again for stopped vehicles on the side of the roadway. Now, as I'm approaching vehicles, I did it the other day. As I'm approaching stopped vehicles on I-10, you know, there was a crash of something going on. I was in my personal vehicle. I'll put my flashers on at that point just to let people behind me see, you know, some movement here, that I'm just not just a steady brake light. And once we come to a slower thing and everybody catches up slow, then I turn them off. I don't leave them on.
Right.
You know, but it just draws attention to you as opposed to not. Again, that wasn't in the rain. You mentioned move over. I mean, so yeah, passing is the left lane. That's the passing lane. I got somebody, a cousin of mine, talked to me yesterday, and he said, you know, I was coming back on Butte La Rose on westbound, and he said the trooper had somebody pulled over, so cars were just piling up, and I'm like, he's like, you know, he should get him off the interstate. Well, I mean, he's up there to work on the interstate. That was his job that day. You know, so the whole point of him was to be up there to get off, stop a speeder, and get him all the way off the bridge is not really feasible. But understand the move over law. Move over law is, yes, move over when you can. If you can't, it doesn't say you have to do 10 miles an hour and creep by. It just says you need to slow down to a reasonably safe speed.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean 60 on flying by them, but slowing down maybe 20
45 to 50.
Yeah, something reasonable, slowing down where you're watching and you can react to something. That's a reasonable speed, but not coming to a dead stop. And not coming to a dead stop and waiting for traffic to go by so you can move over. That was never the intent of the law. It was always meant to just slow down, be aware that somebody's there. This guy could get pushed into the roadway. Somebody could fall into the roadway. Somebody could open a door.
Oh,
you don't know.
You don't know what could happen.
All kind of things could happen. So just understand that move over law is designed to keep those people. It's emergency vehicles and the disabled motorists safe. Doesn't have to come to a complete stop.
Trooper Thomas Gossen, Louisiana State Police Troop I spokesperson. He joins us again to talk about issues with driving, and we're going to go to a caller coming up in 1 second. But about the flashing lights, we kind of talked about that and inclement weather. And, another problem can be, how often do you actually remember to replace the windshield wipers? You remember to replace them
when
you're
it's too
in
late.
a terrible storm. So that's kind of something that's super important too when thinking about traveling in Louisiana.
Absolutely. Look, my son was going to school out of state, and so he would always remind me once he took off, call me, when he ran into weather, saying, "Hey, I need to change the windshield wipers." I'm like, "Yeah, you do.
You do, son."
Yes, you do." So, it's true. Just being basically prepared. And I think a lot of these things, if you think about it, a lot of the things that we run into. It's preventive. It's preventive maintenance. It's preventive measures, and because if you think about it, crashes are pretty preventable. There are very few that are true accidents. Most of them are preventable, whether it be on your part or the other driver's part. Most of the time, it's a decision someone made to do something very poor. So, I think that we need to think about that, and part of that is maintenance. You all mentioned tires earlier, making sure your tread. By law, you're supposed to have so much tread on your tires.
And I think about that when I'm in my car.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of people don't think about that until it's too late.
But that's what I'm saying, when I have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So,
absolutely.
yeah.
We mentioned lights, driving with park lights on. And a lot of people think, look, it's one more click. It's just one more click of that button. Just click it one more time, because you're not supposed to drive with park lights on. That's why they're called park lights.
Yeah.
If you're required to have lighting, then you're required to have lighting. When you have rain falling, your windshield wipers are on, your lights are supposed to be on, not your park lights. If it's early in the morning where you don't know whether the sun's up or down yet, put your lights on, not your park lights. Put your driving lights on, your real lights on.
And remember, your park lights don't necessarily trigger the tail lights either, which is why that one click matters.
What really throws people off is that their daytime driving, your daytime running lamps you'll see headlights, but your tail lights are not on at that point, right? So you got to turn everything on for this to happen. Same thing if you're pulling a trailer. If you don't have your daytime running lights on, that doesn't trigger your tail lights on your trailer that you have.
Ooh, man, big one.
So that's another thing to keep in mind. So look, all these things are just intended. The point of this is to keep people
help us.
To keep people safe, right?
Yeah.
And we do need to have these reminders every once in a while, because we do take a lot of these things for granted, and we just don't we don't think about it.
No, because we jump in our cars, and we just go, and then when it starts raining heavily, we go, oh, windshield wipers.
And we're so used to now with modern cars, daytime running lights, we assume, oh, my lights are on, and we forget about the tail lights.
That brings up auxiliary lighting. Everybody's running those light bars and stuff. In fact, I had an 18-wheeler follow me just now on I-10, and he had a light bar at the bottom, which is an off-road light bar, super, super bright. When I look in my rearview mirror, all I saw was this bright light. I couldn't see any other cars, even the cars on the side of him. So kind of backed off and pointed at it and said, hey, you need to cut that off. And so he turned it off.
Did.
But a lot of people think, okay, well, I can buy it. It must be legal. No, it's off-road only. It doesn't mean you can run that on the roadway, period. It's off-road lighting only. A lot of these places will do that. They'll sell it, but then just
for a quick buck.
All right, so thank you, caller, for waiting so patiently. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. Trooper Gossen, I have a question for you. First, I want to tell you my nephew does the same thing you do, but in the state of Mississippi, so
awesome.
We have a lot of respect for you guys.
Yep. Getting a little feedback there.
My question,
you have the radio on?
Yep.
No, wait.
Not sure. It's okay. I think might be okay now.
It's not you, David. Maybe us.
Okay.
Ah.
There we go.
Stuff.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. So here's my comment. For people who need to put that phone down, I was in Shreveport. We were going 70 miles an hour between Shreveport and Dallas. Somebody was on the phone and hit me at 70 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
And ever since then, I'm telling y'all, I fuss at people all the time. Put the phone down when you're driving, especially when you're out on the interstate, because people tend to fool with their radios and, whatever while they're driving. Put the phone down while you're driving and pay attention to you and your family in the car. Mm-hmm. But here's my question this morning. I choose to use Rain-X on my windshields. Okay, I like the way it does it. I think I get better clarity with that than I do with my windshield wipers. If I've got Rain-X, do I need to run my wipers legally?
I don't think there's actually a specific statute that says you have to run your wipers as much as you have to have them operational if you need them. So as long as you can see the roadway clearly, I think you're okay. I've never read really anything that said, you must run your wipers. It's just that you must run your lights whenever it's inclement weather and that you have to have them operational.
Okay. And by the way, for people who don't think that you'll get ticketed for not having your lights on, I was actually one of those people who got ticketed for not having my lights on in a rainstorm.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And look, and I don't know how it is in Mississippi, but it's really a minor charge here. It's not a very steep statute, but it's something that people need to be aware of. You're right.
Yeah, it was about a $45 fine. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
Hadn't even thought about that side of it. I use Rain-X as well.
Yeah.
Hadn't really thought about that side of it.
The thing I don't like about those type of things is that once it does start to wear off, then it becomes difficult. You have to stay up with it.
You do.
Maintain it.
I
right?
have noticed that.
Go back to maintenance again, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, wait, I got to put some more of that stuff in there because it doesn't look right. It's kind of messy because it tends to. It does. It's not as clear,
right?
On it.
To answer Dave's question, doing a quick search of Louisiana revised statutes, the only place where windshield wipers are mentioned is RS 32 Section 301, requiring lamps and other lighting equipment to be used when moisture in the air or precipitation necessitates the continuous use of windshield wipers. That's the only mention.
But not that it has to be used of windshield wipers.
Correct.
Just that it's
right.
But if you look at the safety equipment required, I think windshield wipers is one of them.
Mm-hmm,
but
definitely.
that would be some research.
Right. You have to have them operational. You are correct.
Mm-hmm. Trooper Thomas Gossen, as always, thanks. Great reminders and good things for us to remember to keep us safe.
All right. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.